What's up, everybody? Brett here for Good Talk Gaming, bringing you back to Total War Warhammer 2 for a 2v2 battle I did the other day. The armies of choice, I went with Skaven, my ally went with Warriors of Chaos, and we're up against the Dark Elves and the Wood Elves. And they made kind of a scary pair to fight against. I expected lots of armor-piercing missile units, and they did not disappoint. So here, let's go over my ally's army first, because, you know, I could tell he was a newer player, and his army reflects that, in my opinion. He went with, every unit that he chose is a melee unit. Okay, there's very little variation. He went with a Chaos Lord as his leadership core, his only leadership on a Manticore. He took all of his abilities, and he has no magic at all, no casters. So he's not making use of the Winds of Magic as a resource, and I would say that's always a bad decision. But his front line is very sturdy. He has 2 units of Chosen on the wings, and Chaos Warriors here in the center. So I'm going to make use of them as a sturdy front line for my troops, who have problems standing and fighting. As Skaven, they always want to run away here. So, and on the furthest wings, he has a unit of Chaos Spawn and some Trolls, unarmored. And hidden in the forest, not actually hidden because they're too big to do that, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. So, I lost track of this unit very early on. I'm not sure if it did much work. So let's pay some attention to it as this battle starts. You'll see here, my artillery is already starting to do work. I took 1 Plagueclaw Catapult, expecting this terrain. I'm very familiar with this map. Normally, I end up starting here. That's just kind of generally my luck. So I also took a Warp Lightning Cannon. And on this terrain, if you set up a cannon here, you do have a decent line of sight up the hill. Unfortunately, I did start on this side of this hill. So my cannons are somewhat obstructed, so I took the only unit that I could shoot at, and that's the opponent's Hawk Riders here. And I started to shoot at them with my Warp Lightning Cannon. So you see here, I start giving orders to switch it up. Plagueclaw Catapult's going to be an MVP this game, and I'm protecting it with a single Skaven Slave Spears hidden out here in the forest. Now, when we first started, we couldn't see much of the opponent's armies because of this hill obstructing our view, until my ally kind of took the hill with his forces. Then this whole army came into view. Some of these units here were hidden. These Cold One Dread Knights, very powerful cavalry units. These War Dancers, Azrai Spears, and these units out here on the flanks we could not see. And there was a hidden unit of Wild Riders, which I was expecting a lot more of that sort of thing, which is why I held my army back for a moment, expecting our opponents, being the elves that they are, to make full use of these trees to wrap around and take my artillery. And that's also why I kind of placed my artillery to the edge here, reducing, if they were going to have enemies here and moving around, we would see them and be able to pull off our spears to intercept. But if they were here, we would catch them well before they could get to our artillery. And that was my thinking with my initial deployment. Now here, as a good ally, I have 2 options. I can sit back and let this player, my ally, to me and obviously a newer player, move forward and just get utterly destroyed. Our opponents here have a very powerful anti-armor missile presence. Dark Shards mixed with Glade Guard with Starfire Shaft. And there's a lot of them. And these units together, if they're focused correctly, can take down anything. I mean, there's nothing in the game that this many missile units with 1 or 2 volleys can't kill. So, and our ally here is about to find that out with his 1 aerial unit that he's letting get a bit too far ahead. When you take a Chaos Lord on a Manticore, even though he's still carrying a big shield, he is not actually shielded anymore. Can't click on him to check out his missile resistance, but it's not quite as much as it is if you were, let's say, on foot. Right now he's just a juicy target, and as they move into range, they'll make him pay for that. Now the Shaggoth has spotted these Wild Riders for me, and I'm holding back for just a moment, and I'm going to put it into to full speed in just a second here as the armies begin to engage. The Wood Elf player has a Glade Lord, and is that the, yes, that's the actual Glady. She does have a bow. The Branch Wraith here in the front to cast Earthbloods and to provide the buffs for melee attack. And I didn't notice this during the battle, but all of these Eternal Guard are rank 9, so they're pretty juiced in terms of their stats. A lot of gold was spent to make this front line very sturdy. And let's put it into regular speed as we begin to get into battle here. My Warp Lightning Cannon starting to take down these Hawk Riders. Malekith in the back line with several of his spells, and he's riding his Velociraptor. Yeah, our poor ally here gets netted down and focus fired quite heavily. And our front line is all clan rats and storm vermin mixed in, with some shieldless clan rat spears on the flanks, expecting Wild Riders once again. Our back line for our ranged units, we have 2 Skaven slingers, which are very cheap and effective if you mix them in with gutter runners with poison. Just 1 unit of them, and with the focus fire from all 3 of those units, you can do a lot of damage and counter skirmish Wood Elf ranged units quite effectively. Now these Dark Shards all have shields, so that's not something we're going to want to target with anything but our artillery. We brought 2 units of Rat Ogres to counter engage against Wild Riders. I'm holding them back until I see whether or not I can intercept here with these spears, but soon I'm going to engage them in the front line. I brought 1 assassin with trophy heads, and I'm sending him in here just to help out these Chaos Warriors. I brought Queek as well with Stand Your Ground, Verminous Valor, Warp Shard, I think it's Warp Shard armor, lowers the armor of the enemies by 18, which is huge, and Dwarf Gouger, his weapon of choice. And I think I'll pop it here. Yeah, plus 40% armor piercing damage. He's going to tear up these Eternal Guard. And my absolute favorite unit on the entire roster of the Skaven is the Warlock Engineers. And I brought his Warp Stone armor, I believe is what it's called. Not to be confused with Queek's. It drains. It has a draining effect when he's in melee. So I'm going to move him into melee soon. But you'll notice throughout this entire battle, I'm going to be casting Warp Lightning on these juicy Dark Shard targets. And there you go, that was a big cast. And it's cheap. It's only 5 Winds of Magic. And at this point I have 30, I have the full 30. So I'm going to cast it every time it's off cooldown. I'm trying hard to defend my catapults here versus these Wild Riders. And these Black Ark Corsairs that somehow made it through the front line. Broke through these Chaos Warriors and my Storm Vermin, who will rout, but come back. So my units are rallying. Trying to lock down these Wild Riders. Don't know whatever happened to that Shaggoth. But Allies army, very easy to micro. All you have to do is, right click in. I'm trying to harass the back line enough to disrupt them from firing. So you see here I'm chasing these 2 units with Storm Vermin. I'm using my Warlock Engineer to at least damage these ranged units here. I've got my Assassin and Queek. My idea was to try and get Malekith here with trophy heads. He is faster than us on his Velociraptor. But one thing I would chalk this up to the lack of pure games played as Skaven. It's not something I play a lot. He's one of my least favorite races. But for some reason, I could have sworn Queek had better missile resistance. I don't know why in my mind he was a shielded unit. He's certainly not. He kind of dual wields weapons. But when I got in this back line, I realized I made a terrible mistake. All of these different range units turned and fired on Queek, and they were able to get him quite easily. I think he just has the standard missile resistance of any Lord character, 15%, I think it is. So the Prey of Anathrama locking down my Storm Vermin, keeping them from engaging, but they're going to get out of that in a second and get into the back line. Clan Rat Spears disrupting 2 of these units, quite nice. Clan rats here intercepting. So I'm kind of spreading my forces wide all over the map to intercept and to kind of make up for my allies' very flat front line. Because if I wasn't shutting these guys down, no one would be. So Queek dies here. We did do some work with the assassin and Queek in the front line. We did all of this damage to this branch raid. And we were able to rout him. And we did that before we went to chase Malekith. So it's not like we didn't get any value, but losing Queek there is rough. You don't want to lose your leadership on the Skaven, and that's why I also like to diversify my leadership. I got 3 different units, so, you know, if Queek dies, the assassin dies, at least I still have the Warlock Engineer. So I realized once I took down those Hawk Riders, which they ended up coming here to flank, and they got shot point blank by the lightning cannon, my line of sight was obstructed for any of these other units, so I had to bring them all the way forward to about here. And they're not going to do much this game, but they're going to do something pretty beautiful toward the end here. You see 3 minutes left on the clock, and this battle is just wild engagement after wild engagement. More lightning going off. My catapult's still firing. It was only briefly obstructed by the Wild Riders, and we were able to clear that out quite well. I was able to reunify my back line, and I'm prioritizing shooting targets that are broken but not shattered, hoping to shatter them off. Here you see this draining effect, because my Warlock Engineer was engaged in melee. And Malekith has just been casting spells non-stop this entire battle. Chill Wind here, damaging and slowing my Storm Vermin, keeping them off of his ranged units. The Glady and Malekith fighting these Chosen, these beastly units. Just 15 of them with no health, 13 now, standing and fighting 2 Lords. Those guys are awesome. And our ally, thankfully, did not lose his leadership right off the bat. It's broken now, but he was able to hold on to it, protect it until the end here. And before he was himself broken, he did shatter off this branch raid, which was a fine play. So I'm bringing my units together. I'm attempting to consolidate my forces. I'm leaving some of my units chasing where appropriate, but I'm trying not to overextend in any one direction. My ally, smartly, is pulling his units back as well. And I'm about to get my Warp Lightning Cannon up on this hill. I just dropped my Playclaw Catapult. It is out of ammo. It managed to fire all of its ammunition with 123 kills on it. Quite good. Bringing all of these units back from where they were chasing off routing units. And this was quite disappointing to me. I sent my Warlock Engineer to finish off these Dark Shards. It nearly did it. It applied its draining effect, and then it took 1 arrow to the back from this Glade Guard and routed. Now I'm going to try and save him with my ranged units by counter-skirmishing these guys, and he's going to come back at the last second before routing off the map, and he's going to fight off these Eternal Guard. So quite good. And here I managed to get my Warp Lightning Cannon right here on the lip of this hill, and we blast Malekith. And this is what I believe turned this final stages of this battle in our favor. Had my engineer gone off the map and I not repositioned my cannons here, Malekith would still be in high health, he would not be routing, and then we kill him. Boom, we take him out. The entire Dark Elf army starts to waver, and they rout. So it was kind of a beautiful confluence of events there. We saved the engineer, and we killed Malekith all in one swoop. So excellent game. I felt very scattered that game. Having to use very finicky leadership units to try and chase down the powerful ranged and very mobile units of my enemies was quite stressful, because you always feel outmatched in that regard. My build wasn't set up to do that, but I tried to make the most of it. My ally did fine with his army. His units did exactly what he wanted them to do. And we'll go ahead and take a look at the kills here. Let's look at our ally. So, I mean, he engaged. So his front line was a nice anvil for us. The Chosen. did fine. Kind of the similar number of kills. They were in their element. They were fighting pretty weak frontline units. And unfortunately, the Trolls, the Chaos Spawn, and the Shaggoth didn't really net their full value. A lot of spear units, very good against these large units. Also, all of this ranged fire. None of these guys have particularly high missile resistance. The Shaggoth does have some. My units did pretty well across the board. The Warlock Engineer, casting his constant Warp Lightning, got 92 kills, solid. Very cost effective when you strip him down to just one spell, and giving him the armor to drain. Mixing him in amongst the front lines is a little bit better than what I did. I had him fighting amongst the Wood Elves, one unit of Wildwood Rangers, also chevroned up. He took a lot of damage from them. Had I mixed him in a little bit better with some clan rats or something, he probably wouldn't have taken any damage. This Wood Elf build was solid. War Dancers did great. I love the cheap Glade Guard. For their price, you can get 2 of these instead of getting the much more expensive Ranger units. And yeah, with their volley of fire, this volume of fire that they can put out over the course of a long match, they can do a lot of work. Wildwood Riders, decent kills, but these were mostly against my clan rats, so you would expect them to get kills. That's a good trade for me. You'll take that trade all day long at Skaven, trading off one very cheap spear unit for an expensive, very powerful Wild Rider unit. And catapults did great. We didn't get to see it there, but toward the end of the fighting, when I pulled them off the catapults when they ran out of ammunition, they were actually able to intercept some returning Wood Elf units and keep them off of my cannon as it advanced. So a nice little play there. Rat Ogres did fine. Queek getting picked off early, not the smoothest move on my part. I'll be more careful with him in the future for sure. The Assassin did fine. Malekith racked up quite a few kills with his magic. And we got to see some cool units. The Cold One Dread Knights are the elite cavalry for the Dark Elves. They were just a little bit mismatched in the units they were fighting. But it was a very good battle. Thank you to my ally, Skrataz, and my opponents, Eugene and Zuper Kralu. My best try there to say those names. Thank you to everyone for playing, and thank you for watching. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming, and if you like this video, please thumbs up it and subscribe if you haven't already. I would appreciate it. I'm a new channel. If you leave a comment, I will see it and I will reply. So without further ado, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one.